Hello and good afternoon, everyone. This is Ananya Jha from Team Espousal back again, and we had a super fun discussion previously on tourism, hospitality, and weddings, the winning trio. And now we will be moving on to the next session of the day, and this one is going to be very interesting. This session is on floral trends and color palettes for 2022 and 23, where we will be joined by some of the most talented people from this industry. We have with us Suminda Perera from Sri Lanka. He is the managing director of Second Chance Flowers. Then we have Mr. Srikant Kanoi from India. He is the CEO of Ethereal Celebrations. We have Jasleen Kochhar from India. She is the founder of a bespoke event planning company specializing in conceptual event designs called Bougainvilla Private Limited. Robert Chaar from Lebanon will also be joining us today. He is the CEO and founder of Casa Flora. We also have the very talented Alina Tacmelova from Toronto. She is the founder of Flowers Time, a high-end floral and decor company. And finally, we have Sylvia and Elfi from South Africa from Yes Exclusive Flowers. Srikant will also be moderating the session. So, all the best to everyone here, and over to you, Srikant. Thank you.
Hi. Such a pleasure to see such a renowned set of people on the same frame. Welcome, everyone. A very good afternoon to all of you from India. I'm sure the time zones are different for different places. Let's get the ball rolling. Shall we start with Mr. Sumindra first? Mr. Sumindra, what do you feel the kind of floral stands that we expect to see in 2022 2023?
Hi everyone, I'm Suminda. Right now, it's 2023 is a new year coming up after post-COVID, and 2022 also some kind of a post-COVID. Now the color or the flowers, now those things always comes in a such a way, in such a manner, which the bride needs. Now, see, to do a wedding, we need what? We need a bride and a groom for everything. So I think we have to think first what the bride needs and what the groom needs. They have their own way of doing their own wedding, and they might have dreams. So dreams become wedding. So always I try to get the color or the new trend, and we are getting old but brides are getting younger. You got. So we have to think always younger way, the way of they think, not the way of what we think. So mainly I always maintain my ability and maintain my idea to the brides, and always the bride is the one, the key factor to get this the wedding role. What we do is we support the brides, whatever the visual she has in her mind, we supports to enhance that. So what particularly we need is what's the bride's wish. Then we add on our colors. Maybe bride will come up with a one color or two. So we can have a supporting colors to support the environment to be enhanced. We have to think, we have to knowledge the bride, we have to knowledge the groom or the family, where you are getting in your wedding, where the place, the is it inside a ballroom or outside outdoor. So we have to educate them how the sunlight always act. Now in our country, it's a tropical country, it's a beautiful green areas, okay, outdoor, but it is really hot. So we have to maintain the flowers quality and all these stuff. So we have to educate them first how the flowers act on the outdoor and how the flowers act on inside the ballroom. So these are the main concerns as we are florists, to educate the couple, because couple is always new with things, new ideas. They don't know the real facts. So we have to tell them what the real facts are, and we have to educate them in such a manner to ask from us what we should do. So mainly the colors or whatever the trends going with, we have to make the bride feels comfortable with us to discuss. So the main thing is that once you do that, then you are, as if you are a professional, if you are a good person to acknowledge the bride, then you do the rest. So first,
So, so
my
what I
point
gather
is
from
get
what
the
you're
bride.
saying, Mr. Sumindra, is the client or the bride, she herself would like to set the trend for her wedding.
Yep.
But what I wanted to understand more so out here is what is the global perspective? What is the floral trend which the industry is looking up to for the year 22-23? Maybe Sylvia and Elfi, if you can share your thoughts on the same. I really appreciate as to what you have said. Those are very important points. Bride is, after all, it's her day, and we need to work around her. But what is it that the world, what is it that we have put forward for the year 2020 to 2023 as the floral trends, which we expect the world to follow? Yes.
Yes. Hello from South Africa, first of all. So
Hello.
thank you so
Welcome
much
to
for
both
the
of you.
invitation, and I'm very happy to also meet the other panelists. Um, I mean, we have had a very tough 2.5 years. I think the world has seen like quite a struggle. I think there are a lot of aspects that also came out of COVID, where people, first of all, try to be more environmentally sustainably, more friendly. So, for example, in our part of the world, people are looking to use less oases and are looking forward to more maybe free flow, oasis-free, natural styles of floral designs. That's, I think, something where people have appreciated nature much more during COVID times, right? So we were all confined into our own like little places where there was an apartment or a house, but we appreciate nature like much more. So people really go and say, okay, fine, what can we do for the environment, considering that we're using maybe a lot of cut flowers, but what other things we can maybe save some impact on the environment. So that is like foam free, like for example, for our industry, it's really a big topic when it comes to that. Then I think the effects on COVID has gone like two ways. There's the one side where people really are looking for elaborate, lush, luxurious weddings, because we couldn't have weddings after all for such a long time. So people are really like longing to go out there and celebrate, and that in a big fashion. And the others are really turning into small, intimate, refined, detail-oriented weddings where they go much more, maybe even a Japanese style, like using candles, just 1, 2, 3 elements on the table, like really, really minimalist, because they say they rather maybe want to spend more money on family activities, maybe honeymoon, travel, so it's really two-sided for us in our industry here. And I think on the other side, texture has become something that is really on trend on floras. So we are not only talking about fresh cut flowers, we're talking about also a lot of dried and preserved flowers, a mix of different varieties in that sense, which brings interesting texture. Colors obviously is something I think we're going to touch on a little bit later, but I think that are just some things that I can think of, which comes first top of mind, which really I think impacts at least our side of the world. Maybe you have still something to add.
Just by having like two companies, one the wedding company and a flower trade, we are, maybe just to explain, we are one of the biggest importer and exporter of flowers here in Africa. So we see the trends also in different countries, like particular here in Africa, going with, like this year was very natural nude colors, a lot of very specifically said that people said it should look like in my garden. We bring the garden onto the tables. Not so much anymore this very stiff arrangements that we had in the past. But also we see, particularly here now we have winter time, there is a shift towards more colors. People go for warmer colors to get a feeling summer in winter. I think this is a little bit, and as Elfi said already, the trend goes also to more specific, to details, to flowers like fritillaria, or to not just to the common flowers, also to a lot of different textured flowers. So this is like what we can see particular here in South Africa.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very, very good answer, which I was personally looking at also. And since Jasleen has joined us, Jasleen, I'm not sure whether you heard the question. I would repeat, and I would love to have your point of view as to what kind of floral trends can we expect to see in 2022, 2023. Out here, Mr. Suminda touched upon the fact that the bride is the bride's day, and we need to understand as to what she is looking at, and keeping on that, we need to bring in our experience and our expertise and tell her requirement, her wishes with what is practical and what is required, and the other various factors in mind. And when we had Sylvia and Elfi telling us that minimalism is also there, but at the same time, because of the COVID, we have grand weddings happening simultaneously. We are looking at practical solutions. We are looking at real flowers, but mix and match of artificial along with real, uh, and the colors, which we are going to talk about later anyway. What are the other aspects you feel are the trends we can expect going forward? In all yours.
Sorry, can I just say one
Yeah,
correction?
please.
We're talking not about artificial flowers. Maybe we come back to this later. We are not so much preferring artificial flowers, but the trend is going towards dried and preserved flowers. That they
Right.
are all natural. There's nothing artificial. So that is just to make this
I'm
sure.
glad you
Sorry.
brought the point
Like
up. Thank you
on
so much.
whether
I see
artificial
corrected. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, Justine, I would love to have your point of view. Welcome on stage.
Srikant, hi all of you. I was right here. I think there was a camera snag.
Okay.
I heard everything Elfi and Sylvia, even Suminda talked about. Okay, so my personal opinion, when I choose flower, I always think of color at the back of my mind. I think of texture, but mostly I also have to think of the weather. India is so huge, and choosing to work with the flowers deeply depends upon the right the conditions for me. We're sitting in the middle of summer, and I have to do a wedding with Indian flowers. Right conditioning to whenever I'm putting these up. So that is a disclaimer. So the weather conditions in India really matter. So conditioning matters a lot. If I have the right temperatures, then I can go ahead and select fragile-looking Indian flowers. The fragrant in English is what we is still a big favorite of all the brides that have found something traditional in the summer. We tend to of flowers. We use a lot of white, use a lot of pink, but at the same time, selection style, I tend to segregate my selections to burst color and flowers, marigold, the orange. I tend to put that aside for the mehendis, and the Indian ones more for the main wedding function. Having said that, we are very lucky in India to have a host and a variety of other flowers. The other cultivated flowers. So I like the hanging heliconias a lot. They lend a very pretty pink, and they hang really well on all the ceilings. So the selecting a flower is
Yes, I think
upon the text, weather conditions, and then the bride in her obviously criterias, and I have to keep that in mind. Mostly, I begin with the weather and move into color and then the texture.
so. I'm not very sure whether we have Alina and Robert in the room. I can't see them on the stage out here. So, in case Alina and Robert, either of you are here, I believe they're trying to join. They have not been able to join. Since you have already broached upon the topic, Jasleen, as to how do we go about selecting the right flower for the wedding and what are the key factors, and you have already laid down a couple of pointers to the same, that the weather depends a lot on the weather which we are looking at, depends a lot on whether it's a inside or outside and which season or which month we are having the wedding. I would also like to understand from the other two panelists as to their thoughts on the same with respect to how do we go ahead choosing the right flower. Is there something called the right flower? And who decides that right flower? And Mr. Suminda, let's start. Let's again have your input on the same.
As I earlier said, it's always the bride is the one
Right.
who my wedding's deciding party, and
It's
but
everywhere. It's everywhere, right?
yeah, and I'm agree with Sylvia also. Now actually see the trend goes to always the nature. They follow nature actually because this after post COVID. Always people think twice, they don't seems like comfortable of spending much for weddings, and as some weddings they want to spend a larger amount, they don't care about what expensive is it, but still they want to go ahead because pandemic does two three things to our lives, because they have enough time, they are relaxed, and they were searching every search engine that they could, because they have enough time. At the moment the people are a lot people are working from home, so they have enough time to go through their wedding. Now normally those days we work with brides who walk to the office and hurriedly come to us and give us about 30 minutes of valuable time to discuss entire wedding, but nowadays we have Zoom meetings, we have all these facility right now. We are very comfortable of using those things. And we make the bride to feel, okay, what is your dream? The my point is a dream for a wedding. Because as young brides, they always love to have their dream come true. So as Sylvia mentioned, uh, the garden comes to the table. Yes, the garden always come to the table. That's where we are now. See, those days we always take a pot and we do a design. Okay, we do the flowers onto design, and the bride, when we show the sample, they will see that how it is beautiful and they will take it. But nowadays always the nature comes to the table. That means the flower goes the way that he wants, the flower wants. So we create it onto the table, saying that the flower likes to fly, the flower likes to free hold. Sometimes people are using a lot of flowers in a pot or vase. You got it. But some they want the flower to be seen, the flower to be whatever the if you are showing a symbedium, you want to show the symbedium. And otherwise you are just putting clusters of flowers, you can't recognize what is this flower. Sometimes when we post the pictures, when we do the flowers and when we post the pictures, they particularly ask what flower is this. That means we have failed there to show that color or the flower. So we have to maintain the look also. So we can't do every wedding on those things, because some brides, they don't care, they want flowers. You got it. So it's always depend on the bride and the trend that we are making in, and the way that we are going into the client or the bride or the couple will makes such a difference.
Right. That's a very, very good point you have brought in, undoubtedly. And I would like Sylvia and Elfi now to share their thoughts on the same as to what are the key factors that we need to look at when we are selecting the flowers for a wedding.
I don't know. You want to start?
Yeah, maybe.
Or-
I, in a certain way, agree with you that a bride should have the basic like saying to her dream come true, but we are the professionals. We should actually guide her in what exactly is possible, and taking in consideration, for example, what the two of you said before, on the weather condition. We can have hydrangeas, they flop very quickly, they can only be used in an inside environment. But we have hydrangeas from special farms, we as trader know about that. They're very hardy, they're very strong, heat resistant. So you can also use hydrangeas in a very hot environment if you have the right hydrangea. So that is also a knowledge that we have to share with the bride. And obviously, we have a saying here, and I like what you said before. Sometimes less is more. We have to tell a bride what is possible. We have to show her what is possible. If we show only tables full of like stiff flowers or flower walls, what you said, we would fail maybe her to recognize the individual flower. If she only sees this, she can only require that. But if she sees different things, and if we show her different things, she might like the one or the other. So we cannot, or we don't want to overturn her idea of a wedding. But sometimes, and this is what we also have seen, by guiding a bride the right way, the wedding goes in a sometimes different direction as maybe right at the beginning, because a bride is a private person. She has no knowledge, she has just a feeling. And we have to actually bring our knowledge to make her dream come true. And sometimes maybe we have to tell her, like, out of her 3-4 styles that she sends us in one mood board, maybe we should go only to one style so that maybe fits the wedding concept better. So I think we also
have a responsibility.
Yeah, to
We
say
have a
no
responsibility
sometimes.
to also like limit the ideas of brides, because we all know brides, right? They're very excited, like they come with like a huge expectation, which is right. But we are like the professionals together, obviously with the planner, and in line with ideas and wishes, should somehow like check, okay, what is maybe the color theme of the venue? Is it an outdoor indoor wedding? Is it, what budget is available, right? That is actually the first question that should always be asked every client before we even like say what is possible. Is like, okay, I've seen your dreams, you have like explained what you want, what is the budget? Because the budget obviously determines a lot of what is possible on a floral side. Then we can like say, okay, fine, you mentioned artificial flowers. If I know that there is a high ceiling of 5 meters, right, I would possibly maybe not put fresh flowers on there. We can maybe talk about artificial flowers, but everything that is somehow in
Touchable.
height of like people and that can be touched, felt, and smelled, that should be like fresh flowers, or even like at least like a natural based flower if it's a dried or a preserved flower. So I think that is all like things that should be taken into consideration when we say what is the right flower. The right flower really is different for each and every event, but there are key like questions that need to be asked, and one mainly is, what is your budget? Because that determines whether I can use maybe a lot of orchids or phalaenopsis, or maybe I should like go into a complete different direction. Maybe we can say, listen, you know what? If that is really your dream, maybe you need to change your wedding day to a different season to have that seasonal flowers available. If that is what you want. If not, then obviously there's always like options, and this is our responsibility as the professionals to lay all the options to our client.
Yeah, and you can also choose like to achieve a special look. You can choose for different kind of flowers. Like, let's say a garden style. I can use David Austin roses, which are extremely expensive, but there's also other like more cost-effective garden roses, which get us to the same result.
Similar look and
Yeah,
feel,
to
but
similar
the
look and
budget
feel, but
different.
match the budget much better.
Very well said. I really appreciate your inputs. Jasleen, would you like to add to it from the Indian context at least?
Uh, so yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that Sylvia and Elfi have talked about. In terms of the Indian context, we have to also know the various options that are available, how we can substitute them. Particularly, a lot of the brides demand for flowers like the hydrangea, like the cymbidium orchid, the more of the expensive category as far as we're concerned, because these are not cultivated here. And because COVID has made them even more expensive to get a hold of because of the flights being rerouted to Chennai and then coming into various locations like Delhi or Bombay. I often try and tell them that we can achieve the same result using a lot of other flowers. So a bride may want a certain thing, but we as professionals have to guide her. I like to start with the budget at this stage, and I like to ask her what it is that she's planning to spend to begin with, because the sun and the stars can be for you depending upon what you want to spend. And flowers are one such aspect where you can achieve the same result using a bunch of other flowers. Unfortunately, we do have hydrangeas that get cultivated even in India, but again, the seasonalities have to be really matched. So you can be shown a image with hydrangea, but whether you can do it in October, whether you can do it in June or July, that is something you have to see. We're getting Colombian hydrangeas, we're getting Dutch hydrangeas, so we really have to play it tactfully when it comes down to showing hydrangeas. I often dislike using artificial flowers at eye level. I only like to use them if required. I then tell them that we can work with more greens, we can work with more foliage and lesser flowers if the budget doesn't allow us to work with too many flowers. But yeah, I feel that it's a little differently done than it is maybe overseas. I feel that here we do need to fill up space, need to fill up the venue, and I like to work with the other elements other than the flower in order to do that. So sometimes the brief is just fully floral, more often than not. Now I'm happy if I use let's say a lampshade on the with that to the base with flowers. The idea is to get a nice element on the table scape vis-a-vis just flowers. Where I see a lot of flowers being used are occasions like the small ceremonies at home. We call them the roka, where the wedding has just been announced and it's going to be in your house. So you're spending lesser, but in that context, a more busy, enjoy your flowers more. So we then like to do tablescapes just flowers, and we then like to focus the flower amount on one tablescape and maybe corner table arrangements, and we then the more expensive flowers like the
I think we are having some connectivity issue with her. So what I could gather from my esteemed panelist out here, the key factors which we are looking at with respect to choosing the right kind of flowers is basically the budget breakdown, whether what's the season we are looking at, what's the inspiration which we can draw on based on the various factors, the venue, etc., the theme, the color palette, they all work as an influence. Uh, Factor in the color and the meaning, which is also important for certain brides, not always. But these are the few factors which I have all of us agree on are the way forward for us to zero in on the type of flowers which we would like to use. Now, moving ahead on a similar thing is, are we looking at a particular color palette for the season? Is how are we getting the combination right? Is something happening with respect? I know it's a very important factor in the West, the color combination, the color palette. And what are the color palettes which are working at your in South Africa?
May I just add one thing
Yeah,
additionally?
please. I love the way you always bring in the last pointers and I
I'm
appreciate
sorry, I'm just listening and then things come up to my
that. Yeah,
mind.
please, please.
Um, because also when I hear, for example, that she said about the cymbidiums, they are not seasonal. Maybe please take in consideration what at one part in the world is not seasonal, on the other part in the world is seasonal. For example, we have now cymbidium season from May to October is cymbidium season, while in Holland is no cymbidium season. So maybe it's just a matter of where you get the flowers from. Maybe not from your natural source, maybe where you usually get the flowers from, but just look a little bit above the plate. In October, for example, we have peony season here in South Africa, the same as in Chile. But in Europe, peony season is almost from March until maybe an extended season, let's say like that, for a couple of flowers that you just get from a different source. And also maybe finally, like when you have, for example, and hydrangeas, I know in India or even in Arab countries, it is a big deal because it gives a huge volume, it gives nice texture, and it's always a question, will they last? So we have very, very interesting experiences with dried and preserved hydrangeas. This is a very natural product. It is a natural dried or preserved hydrangea. It looks natural, and it has the advantage. I hope I can explain this in the right way, that it's not going wrong. The florist can hire it out. It means you can, as a florist, you can buy, I don't know, 1,000 whatever hydrangeas. You can use them in different events, because these are reusable flowers. Obviously, at one day they are gone. But maybe you can use it for 2 events, or maybe even for 3, if that's possible. So the client has the advantage that he has not to pay the full price, because you share it, because you hire this out in a certain way. Obviously, you have to clean it up and to factor this in. But there is environmental friendly aspects in this whole part, because we have not even talked about what happened to all the flowers afterwards. So this is also something in a lot of countries. It's going to go to waste. But in other countries, there is a second life, let's say, for flowers. So they go to old age homes, they go to hospitals, guest gifts. So there's different purposes. Maybe just like I want to bring this in. What was the question about the colors? Actually, maybe this is not good.
So I would in fact love to understand more offline. I'm sure the audience also would love to know more, but this is not the subject. We will not take it forward out here. The hydrangeas and how we can work with them. That sounds a very interesting and I'm sure it's going to excite a lot of wedding planners out here. But coming back to our topic,
a session for that.
Yes.
Right.
So maybe just now on the colors. I think colors depend highly on where you are located in this world. So I think it's not a general answer that fits at all. I think there's so many things to consider. We can only speak somehow for our region, and maybe also for Europe, because we originally are Europeans. So we see a lot of what is happening in that corner of the world. So for us, what we see for this year, or also going into next year, also considering all the interior design aspects, because where do we draw our inspiration from, right? It's a lot of architecture, interior design, and then obviously botanicals like gardens and what is outdoors. So in terms of interiors, what we are seeing, it's a lot of greens and blues. Pantone colors have sort of an impact, but not really. So we were dealing with a lot of purples, but for us, for example, it's not at all really a color that people prefer to have on a wedding. I think the more earthy tones are going to still be on trend, like the mustard, mango, beige colors. I think that is still something that we're going to see. White will never go out of season. I think we're seeing a little bit of a tiredness for pinks. So people are a bit more tired of pinks. So they are more than on the experimental side. So when they say, no, it's not going to be a blush or like an earthy color, we want color blocking. Like we want like really like funky colors like cerise, oranges, teals, like really that and that like mixed together. I think that is
Yeah.
something that we can see for our regions here.
I think you hit the nail on the head. An answer which I was totally expecting from both of you. Jasleen, what is your input as to what are the colors which is still ruling the Indian market?
I wish I could say that there is a tiredness of pink and red, but unfortunately, that's never going to be the case here. I personally, as a designer, might feel that there is a tiredness of pink, but it's an evergreen color here. It's always going to stay. Pinks dominate during the summer for a summer wedding, but reds are like your go-to color for the winter. In the winter, you have to have some splash of red at the wedding, because the way I've studied the color trends with the wedding trends is that the color is what makes the mood. That's why I start with the color. So in India, the functions, the four core functions, if I tell you the haldi function where we apply turmeric just before the wedding, the mood has to be set right. For a long time, we were working with yellows. I recently wanted to change that, and it was a poolside haldi, so swimming pool. There's always a lot of blue around there, so I could take the design liberty to change the haldi and include some blues, but yellow still had to be done. But predominantly, I got away with using shibori prints in indigo blue and white. In terms of the fabrics, I was using the cushion prints, and then alongside the flowers were still yellow. The flowers were whites with yellow. So like that, there are similar examples. At a wedding, I have to use pinks and whites and greens for summer. But what I can see changing is more in the sangeet and the cocktail functions. I mean, I can be more experimental in the mood there, and it doesn't have to have any kind of a ritual attached to it. So for that, we are looking at a trend which has changed now. I'm seeing a lot of couples wishing for a club like feel. Some of them are opting for more of the moss and the gray tones, the moss greens, the gray tones, a splash of earthy tones are coming in into the cocktail nights. But again, we have to balance that with a lot of lighting effects. So the flower tends to take a bit of a backseat there, but we then bring in white as a exclusive color just to pop all these rest of the colors. So in India, I still have to work with the mood I need to create. I mean, I wish I could follow more trend, but personally, when I get a bride who is experimental, who doesn't really want to go with any of the, you know, ongoing color selections, then I love to dabble with a little more of healthy functions where we can go organic, where we can go green. I love working with Hessian rope in terms of texture. So for me, what elements I'm using are very important to what flower I'll end up selecting. And I mean, if I'm using Hessian and and I'm creating concentric circles for a backdrop of where the haldi should be held, I wanted to use a design where I use just the marigold. So it's very organic, it's very true to the nature in India, and I created a texture very, very well. So in terms of not being able to go too much experimental, but at least I can experiment with shape. And I still like to do more neutral tones like caramel colors. So that's one of my favorite. I love using that at weddings when I can, and then dabble an accent of red or an accent of pink. But that's as far as the colors at weddings go or haldis go. It's
Perfect,
literally the
Jasleen.
sangeet where I can do some experiments.
So, Mr. Sumindra, I would like to change the question for you. Can there be ever be too many flowers in a wedding?
Oh, first, I want to thank Espousal giving this worldwide thing. Actually, now see, I will add a few things first. Okay. Uh, Now see, as we think India fact and South Africa fact, and in Sri Lanka, I am here. See that thinking patterns are different to each, because
Yeah, yeah.
now Jasleen is telling me about India range of thing, and Sylvia and the other one is telling about the South African factor now, and we are here in a common forum. And see, as you think individuals, think you are, if you all are the brides, okay, see that some people have their own thoughts and their own ideas and all on their favorites. So it doesn't matter about the amount of flowers. Maybe a single flower which gives you the impression. The Now see, one single flower and many candles will work out. Okay, sometimes you just put green and put some candles there, it's work out. So always, I think, now see, the color, some countries, now in China, if you use white in a wedding, you will kill the florist, because you need red. For them is the red. As Jasleen is telling Aldi, you are used to use yellow. She tried with the Orthodox bride with using a red color, but the maybe the crowd who comes to there into that particular event, they think, oh my goodness, who's the florist is this, who use haldi red flowers or the different color. You got it. So we have to think twice always. Yeah, we are the planners, we are the professionals, or we are the florists. That's all right, but it matters to the culture as well, and to the part of the world as well, and the thinking of the people as well. So we have to make use what the people are trying to use. Now,
I so
as
get what we are trying to say, and we are unfortunately running totally short on time, paucity of time. So I will move on to the last question. I would like all of you to put give in one pointer to the same as to what are the challenges of retaining the freshness in flowers, or how can we maintain the freshness in flowers? Why don't you tell us, Mr. Suminda, as to what do you do to ensure that the freshness of flowers is there for the longest time possible in your arrangements?
number one is timing. We have to be perfect in timings. Now, see, not every hotel will give us the air-conditioned ballroom from the beginning. They are not afford to do that, especially in Sri Lanka right now. Okay, but see, we have to be very careful to give the freshness to the client. So we now see a bougainvillea. Bougainvillea flower, we can't just put it into the cool room and bring it to the venue. It has to take it at the time and put it into the place. That's why we have to be very careful with the bougainvillea and hydrangea. We talk about a lot of hydrangea things right now from South Africa side. See, the hydrangea flower, you need water every time. So you have to use the vase or the thing according to the flower. Now see, some they doesn't want to use much wet forms. Okay, they want to use only the strings of things and just put flowers there. So we have to use in there some flowers which you can hold a lot of time to get spoiled. So we have to maintain. I think we as florists, we should know what flowers to go to that side and what flowers go into water. So then we
And
can make the
Mr.
freshness.
Suminda, since we are totally running short of time, I get the 2 pointers you are saying, and thank you so much for the same. I would love to have Sylvia and Elfi tell us as to what they think are the best tips which we can give to our audience on how to maintain the freshness of the flowers. And let's give them some value which they can take back home.
I think
You
like
can be
for
specific
us,
with specific flowers also if you want.
yeah, for us, the first thing is it starts with keeping the cold chain from us as trader until it goes to the florist. Keep the cold chain because the cold chain keeps the flowers or gives the flowers a longer base life, and prep them well. Give them flower food. If you work with oasis, maybe even add a little bit of flower food in the water that you
Used for dipping
you
the
use for dipping the
Right.
oasis. There's also other alternative flower product like flower foam products, which keep the water with longer. Not only oasis is available in the world, there is also type of foam that keeps water long. Never, my personal opinion, I never would give a flower to a wedding without a water supply. I know in America they prefer to say you can just do that and it holds for that and that many hours. That is not what I would agree to. Any flower has to have a water supply, and even if it's just like a tulip. Maybe you want to
Thank
add something.
you. And
I will give
since we
the
are running
last
short of time, if Jasleen can have her last words before we close the session.
Okay, so really, as Elfi and Sylvia are pointing out, the flower need water. I would say that with all the challenges we are faced with in the hotels not allowing us time, you have to purchase your flowers the day prior. Have an air conditioning room in your own workshop or offices. Let the flower drink water. Put flower food, and you have to cart it to the venue in a bigger vehicle in with the flower with the water supply. Otherwise, you're not gonna have fresh flowers at the wedding.
Bang on. I think you really took it on perfectly fine. Thank you so much, people. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to host all of you. Bye bye.
Thank you
Thank
so
Bye.
much.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. That was an amazing session. Alina Tacmelova from Canada could not be here with us today, so here is a video from her end. Let's take a look at it.
Hi guys, my name is Alina Tacmelova. I'm from Toronto, Canada. My company is Flower Stamp. Unfortunately, I have to record video because we have a big trouble with internet connections. Yesterday, half of our country lost internet and mobile connection, and we didn't have anything, unfortunately. But I would like to be today in our international conference, and for me it's very important. Sorry for my English, I'm not a native speaker. I'm from Ukraine and I live in Canada 10 years, and during this time I built a very successful and lucrative flowers company, and my company, one of the top company in Toronto. We were 4 times on cover on the Vedlux. Vedlux is the most famous wedding magazine in North America. And today I would like to share a few trends that we brought on the table now in Toronto, in Canada. Especially I would like to mention that I'm as a trend watcher. I'm forecaster, and every day I try to identify new trends for a design industry. First of all, what I would like to say that it doesn't matter how many years you have your business, we have to think about our clients, and every day we meet new people. And today my company and me, we work more with Gen Z. It's a new generation from age 22 to 30, and they brought a lot of new trends to our industry, and because they would like to be environmentally friendly and eco-friendly. Sustainability is a big macro trend now, and a lot of trends came from this macro trend. First of all, a lot of my clients started to ask me, Alina, we don't want to use floral foam, and why it's so popular now to create centerpieces with different shapes of vases, small, tall, doesn't matter, but please don't use a floral foam, my client asked me. And now 50% of our weddings, we don't use floral foam, we use different types of vases, because first of all, the guests after wedding, they can take home flowers, and we don't produce waste. Another trend, more and more we use artificial flowers because again, the same idea, we don't want to produce a lot of waste. I know maybe a lot of your friends, clients will send you, oh, it looks cheap. No, we work with very high quality flowers, and I try to educate my client. First of all, we can save their money because it's artificial, and another thing, we can do nicer and fuller to use artificial flowers because we can twist, we can do with the silk flowers what we can do. And especially in Canada, you know, in summer it's plus 40, in the winter it's minus 20, and artificial flowers help us to save our amazing decor. Another thing that now our floristic is very Irish. Oh, please don't do very tight flowers, clusters, head to head. No, new generation like Irish. They like to see every detail, every flowers separately. And I agree with my colleagues who was before me. Bright colors is very, very popular now because after COVID, and especially now it's a very difficult situation and war, and people want to bring brights on the table. You know, they want to be positive. They want to bring something wow effect. But at the same time, it's very popular. They are very popular if you other colors, and it's gonna be trend 2023, 2024. It's a mint. It's a soft yellow, it's a fondant pink, and cyber lime and fondant pink came from metaverse. It's another macro trend, and we have to think about that. Elemental blue and mint. Those color we don't have a lot of in nature, but you can use for the different decor in your event. Maybe vinyl, maybe tablecloths, napkins, maybe dishes, something like that. And this is very important for us to follow trend. And one thing I would like to mention, that less and less we use dry flowers. Pampas grass is not a fashion anyway. Dry flowers, yes, you can continue. Maybe 2023 we still will use dry flowers, different type of dry flowers, but really it's not so popular now. Yes, I think it's my short speech. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.